clarity and lesser codes will now not be possible for and that Inspector Raj, which was there earlier, would now and should disappear. Now, because the compliances become less complicated, the compliances should take place. Like I said, now there are lesser, only one return needs to be filed. Things need one license required for various things. So all the compliances, once you simplify it, it encourages people, both for the industries as well as for the employees, to ensure that the compliances are done, and not only done from their part, but also ensure that they are made more effective. So I think it's a good move, and let's see how the implementation, finally we'll get to know when it practically comes down on the floor.
It really just all comes down to that. And Advocate Hassan, what's your take on this as well? How do you see the issue of enforceability? Now what Advocate Chandra is saying, once you consolidate the acts, once the rules are clearer, once there's no overlapping, that sort of irons itself out. What's your take on this?
So there are a couple of things here which we must know. Firstly, as my learned senior has specifically said, the abuse of the inspection regime is going to be done away with to large extent, because the chief inspectors are going to be now treated and called as chief inspectors cum facilitators. So they are going to be ensuring the facilitation of the implementation of the codes. So to that extent, a lot of kind of facilitation is going to be given to the employers. But having said that, are we also going to have some kind of a conflict? Yes, because the Labor and Employment and the Shops and Establishments Act are going to be also there on the statute book, because shops and establishments are going to be treated and governed by the provisions of the state list. States will be making the respective legislations, and therefore when a kind of a overlap comes in, thereby you will have certain kind of a rift and conflict between the new labor codes and the Shops and Establishments Act of the respective states. But having said that, I think the jurisprudence seems to be clear. You will have to implement which is more beneficial to the employee or worker. So even if there is going to be any overlap, that's going to be ironed out by making or giving more weightage to the benefits of the employee or the workers. So thereby, I think it's going to be a good situation for both employees and workers.
Right, and are gig workers truly gaining social security? What do you think of that promise, Advocate Chandra?
See, earlier the wages were separate, EPF, ESI, bonus, gratuity, everything was separate. Now what they have done is, now the new laws combine everything under the definition of wages itself. So now when you say wages, it includes already all the things, all the benefits that were earlier given. With these kind of simplifications, and I think the way this has happened, not only the gig workers, I think all employees in general would benefit from this.
All right. And Advocate Hassan, in what ways does the consolidation of laws strengthen workers' rights, or does it dilute union and collective bargaining power, something that remains a big concern as well?
I don't think so, considering, earlier under the Trade Unions Act particularly, there is no mandatory provision for the recognition of the trade unions by the employers. Right now, under the new codes, there is a specific mechanism that have been carved out in which you have to recognize the trade union. Right? Of course, you will have the ways and methods which is built out in the Industrial Relations Code as to how the trade union has to be recognized based upon the representation of the employees or the workers in the respective trade union. But yes, it is going to be the employers have to recognize the trade unions, which now we call it as negotiating trade union or negotiating trade council, basing upon the representation of the workers in the respective trade union. I think we are going to recognize more and more trade unions as part of the collective bargaining mechanism as well.
Advocate Chandra, why do you think there are such concerns surrounding this as well? Because a lot, as I mentioned in my question as well, some do see this as perhaps diluting the collective bargaining powers. Do you think that's perhaps lack of awareness, and what's your take on this?
See, I mean, of course, they're both sides of the story. Though now the unions are recognized, now what their law also has provides for, that earlier you could go on strike on immediately or whenever the workers would decide. Now the labor unions would have to give a longer notice period. That would give more time for the industry to take care of whatever the situation is, possibly settle it also. Not only this, there is an expanded prohibition during the conciliation period. So now they are mandatorily, during the conciliation period, they are prohibited from doing otherwise the acts they would have done, which earlier was possible. So there are basic, both the advantages and disadvantages are there. Like my learned friend pointed out, the notice period, the unions are recognized. That's a huge advantage. The negative, if I may say, would be basically the notice period or expanded prohibition during the conciliation period. The tribunal proceedings have now, been more regulated. So all these things have their own advantages and disadvantages. But I would say it is an overall need for the society, for both the benefit of the industry as well as the employees, that this provisions do come into existence. So nothing wrong with that. But yes, anytime anything new comes, it will have its own advantages and disadvantages. I think it will again boil down to how it's implemented on the flow with time.
Absolutely. Every time something new is introduced, it's also going to face its fair bit of resistance. That being said, there comes the mammoth task of center-state coordination as well. So what mechanisms, if you could just explain to our viewers, Advocate Hassan, first you, are perhaps in place to ensure states do implement the codes uniformly and without any delay as much as possible?
If the news reports are to be believed, the take from the Joint Secretary from the Ministry of Labour and Employment has to be considered. Then what is happening is that all the 4 labour codes, barring few states, have introduced the state-specific rules already, right? That's the first thing. Of course, it has not been published in the official gazette. We have to wait and see how they are going to be doing it. Secondly, the central rules have also been introduced, and now the government expects a public consultation, and it is expecting all the state legislatures or the state governments to bring or republish the rules once again of the respective states, so that the public consultation can take place. Now they are likely to give 45 days time for the public consultation once the rules are going to be kind of introduced. And then thereafter, another 45 days time is what the government is likely to take for the overall fine-tuning of the rules based upon the public comments. I think this is how the rules are going to be implemented or notified soon. But I think the center and states have to work in tandem to bring out the rules. I know there are a couple of states that have not yet introduced any of the rules, like West Bengal. They have not introduced any of the rules. And states like Gujarat have already notified some of the rules, for some of the codes. I think a public consultation or a proper consultation between the center and state is probably necessary at this point in time, so that at least the workers or the employees and the employers will be in a much better position to implement the law.
Right, Advocate Chandra, do you want to add to that?
See, it's very simple. I mean, if the laws are for the benefit for both the industries as well as the workers, I think every state government would participate and should participate, in fact, to make the rules as practically required for their states. The basic laws the central government has come up with, like I said, they have thresholds and other limitations they have put, which will have to be a minimum wage and things which will be now the central government has notified. The state government, through their rules, have to just tweak it to suit the needs of that state and their workmen and their issues. So they will have to do a consultation with both the industries as well as the worker unions, and finally the rules will have to be made out. But I think it should and would get implemented, because these laws are long awaited and need to be implemented for the benefit of the society at large.
Absolutely. And just to expand on that, Advocate Chandra, how will the transition period impact existing employee contracts, salaries, their job security? There's a lot of uncertainty regarding that as well.
True. And those uncertainties, again, like I said, would take time to get ironed out, and that is where the coordination between the government, the states, needs to be taken into consideration, and I'm sure it's all a matter of time. At least things have started, a big step has been taken, and now we just await the implementation of that.
All right, and Advocate Hassan, are companies truly ready for digitized compliance systems, or do you think that's going to be a mammoth task as well?
I don't think so, considering most of the companies, I'm not again commenting on the small and medium enterprises, but large enterprises by and large have digitized most of the records, information, and so on and so forth. But with reference to the MSMEs, again, when you go to any MSME or medium sector enterprise, you will still see the visitors registers maintained in the physical form, and you have to make an entry there physically. So the physical records are going to be there, but an option is given to the employers to kind of ensure that the records can be digitized. So this is an opportunity even for the employers to kind of digitize. And in fact, the code also says the payments have to be now made digitally to the bank accounts of the respective workers. So I think this is an opportunity, I would say, for all the employers to digitize their records, and also ensure making the contributions and also making the payment of wages to all the workers categories in digital form.
All right, and Advocate Chandra, just before we let you both go, how do you think enforcement agencies will be able to upgrade capacity to monitor compliance across India's vast informal sector as well? That's a big thing.
That indeed is a big thing. In fact, now trainings, of course, will have to be given since the new laws have come into place. The compliances have, in a manner become upgraded. I would say it has not changed. They have already been doing this, but the way, like they rightly pointed out, now they are not just the enforcing agency, they are also facilitators, as the name has been given to them. So let's hope how they are trained and how they implement, end of the day will boil down to how it works. But yes, things are in place, and let's see how it works. But it's in the right direction, it's a way forward, and I think this was long awaited. So let's see how it works.
All right, and Advocate Hassan, let me just come to you on that as well. Do you want to add anything to that?
As of now, I see there is a lot of gap in between the awareness, because the government has suddenly brought the labor codes for the and notified the labor codes, and therefore the employers took it as a shock, and they are trying to absorb this, and the rules are not in place. And there is a lot of misinformation which is also flowing out. So actually, the government has to take a public consultation here, okay, and also sensitize and educate and create awareness programs for the employers and also employees and workers. Immediately, there are a lot of questions that are being thrown out, whether gratuity is going to be an issue. So gratuity is if and how wages have to be computed. So if clarifications in the form of FAQs are given by the ministry, then it's going to be a lot easier for the employers to cope up with. Otherwise, it's going to be a task which they may have to do it with a lot of vacuum, and leaving it to the lot of interpretation and ambiguity. I think a lot of FAQs, public consultation has to take place here.
Absolutely. All right, Advocate Chandra and Advocate Hassan, thank you so much for joining me on the Breakfast Club this morning. It was great talking to the both of you. Perhaps our viewers are able to understand this new labor revamp a lot better now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and coming up next after this very short break, our person of interest who reached a historic travel milestone, Dr. Rishi Raj, the first Indian to visit all 36 states and union territories in all 7 continents. More details on the other side. Do stay tuned.
This is News 18.
सैल्यूट है जी। आप देश की रक्षा में जान लगा देते हैं
और आप
घर घर में तार लगाते हैं जी। ई बीम टेक्नोलॉजी से बनी, न जले न पिघले, सबकी रक्षा करे।
हम सरहद पर लोगों की रक्षा करते हैं और आप देश के अंदर। सैल्यूट तो बनता है जी।
अपार अणुशक्ति फायर प्रोटेक्ट वायर, अपार देश का तार। सैल्यूट है जी। आप देश की रक्षा में जान लगा देते हैं
और आप
घर घर में तार लगाते हैं जी। ई बीम टेक्नोलॉजी से बनी, न जले न पिघले, सबकी रक्षा करे।
हम सरहद पर लोगों की रक्षा करते हैं और आप देश के अंदर। सैल्यूट तो बनता है जी।
अपार अणुशक्ति फायर प्रोटेक्ट वायर, अपार देश का तार।
Stay ahead with News 18. News from your city in your language. Real-time updates, in-depth analysis, and breaking news. Anytime, anywhere. Only on the News 18 app. Scan and download the News 18 app now.
Now we're getting a breaking news where South African President Cyril Ramaphosa reflects US absence from G20 summit. He says it is regrettable that the United States of America, which is a founding member of the G20 and which takes over the presidency of the G20 from South Africa in 2026, chose not to participate in the Leaders Summit and the final meetings leading up to it. Let's listen in.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Our person of interest today is Dr. Rishi Raj, the first Indian to visit all 36 states and union territories in all 7 continents. He completed the last leg of his journey by reaching Antarctica, carrying the tricolour with the message, Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat. And this wasn't a sudden achievement. It's a journey that began all the way back in 1994, travelling across India during his early years in the railways, from the Jyotirlingas and Char Dham to Kailash Mansarovar. Every trip added a new chapter. And decades on, it has brought him to this historic feat. In Antarctica, he also held a banner calling to Seva Mother Earth and another honouring Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel on his 150th birthday anniversary. Apart from his professional role at DMRC, he has written more than 28 books, including storybooks for children related to history and patriotism. He has also produced over 600 short films on patriotism and India's cultural heritage under his channel Exploring India with Rishi. Today, we bring you a story. He joins us in the studio. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you so much for inviting me on your show.
Of course, it's a pleasure to have you with us. And let me start with your most recent feat, and then we'll go backwards. You were in Antarctica. That is where this entire journey has sort of culminated. I want to talk to you about that trip in particular, what it meant for you personally, also the message that you were trying to send out.
Antarctica was always on my mind for the last 2-3 years, because I had completed all my 36 states around 3 years back, and my 5 continents around 2 years back. So I just wanted to complete that mala. You know, all the states were like moti for me. And the journey to Antarctica completed that entire mala and created that mala for me. So it really meant for me.
Oh, so it was like a mala. I get it. Now, when you started this journey back in 1994, I believe, तो आपने सोचा था कि अभी आपको ये आपका bucket list है, ये places आपको cover करने हैं, or did it just happen in your travels?
No, absolutely not, because I had joined railways in 1994, and when I joined, it was not on my mind that I will ever be able to roam around all the states of India. But ये होता चला गया gradually. तो जब मैं 25 के आसपास पहुंच गया, then I thought कि क्यों ना all states किए जाएं. Then I took this initiative and started roaming around states which I had never been to. So like this it started.
Gee, absolutely. And it's truly inspiring. Like you mentioned, you started this way back when you were 25 or so.
Yeah.
Now, undertaking such sort of trips, how did you manage that with your work, with other demands of our busy lives, and then also to make sure that you do hit every state that you have on your bucket list, every continent and every place that you want to go to?
Job is very demanding, but since DMRC is very, very disciplined organization, so I am glad and I am fortunate that I joined DMRC in 2003, around 22 years back. और उसके बाद जो है मतलब कि ये वही होता है कि when your passion becomes your work ना, तो it becomes things becomes easier for you.
Gee, and did it become your work? Because you also have this channel which is called Explore with Rishi. So how did that come about?
Actually, the journey of making channel started from my journey to Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. I went there in 2014 and I went up to the Bumla. So Bumla is a point where China is quite near. You can walk around and enter into the China if they allow us, obviously. तो वो जर्नी इतनी बढ़िया थी कि मुझे लगा आई शुड मेक अ वीडियो ऑन दिस. सो एट दैट टाइम आई क्रिएटेड माय चैनल एक्सप्लोरिंग इंडिया विद ऋषि.
All right, that's perfect. And आपने उसके बाद 600 documentaries भी produce किए. That's quite a number. How did that happen? And are you doing this all by yourself?
Actually, my wife is helping me in this,
Right.
very honestly. So she's the only person who learned editing once upon a time, but now I have had my professional editor. So, but we started together. और what I feel के जो विधा होती है ना, विधा मीडियम, वो मीडियम कोई भी हो, we should convey our thing to the present generation. मतलब आज की युवा पीढ़ी को हमारा मैसेज बिल्कुल क्लियर होना चाहिए. As you know that people like to watch videos nowadays, they want to watch reels. तो आई फील कि बात कोई भी हो, मतलब अगर सपोज आज चंद्रशेखर आज़ाद का बर्थडे एंड आई हैव टू कम्युनिकेट दैट, बी इट अ रील और वीडियो और बुक, हाउ डज इट मैटर? द थिंग इज कम्युनिकेशन शुड बी क्लियर. तो देन आई स्टार्टेड मेकिंग वीडियोस.
जी, perfect, of course, medium जो भी हो, but the message should be loud and clear.
Yeah.
All right. And आपको क्या लगा कि perhaps ये जो आपने undertake किया, ये journey अपना, इसमें सबसे difficult चीज़ आपके लिए आपको क्या लगी?
अंटार्कटिका वाली.
Okay.
या एंटायर जर्नी.
I'm just asking all over.
ऑल ओवर. ओके. नहीं, टफ कुछ भी नहीं था. मतलब एक अच्छी चीज़ ये रही कि पीपल नॉर्मली स्टार्ट फ्रॉम इंटरनेशनल. अभी तक मुझे 2-4 लोग ऐसे मिले जिन्होंने 7 कॉन्टिनेंट्स किए हुए, बट व्हेन आई आस्क्ड देम कि आपने कितने स्टेट्स किए हैं, तो दे वर फंबल, दे कुड नॉट क्रॉस 12, 13, 14. बट इन माई केस द केस वॉज रिवर्स. आई स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम इंडिया इटसेल्फ. तो पूरा भारत देखा. फिर 2008 में मेरे सभी 12 ज्योतिर्लिंग और 4 धाम हो गए ईश्वर की कृपा से. फिर उसके बाद देन आई डन दिस कैलाश मानसरोवर यात्रा इन 2012. तो समटाइम्स आई जोकिंगली सेड दैट आई एम अ फिट केस फॉर द मोक्षा. तो जब मेरा पूरा इंडिया पूरा हो गया ना, और ये सब मेरा पूरा हो गया, देन आई स्टार्टेड इंटरनेशनल. माई फर्स्ट जर्नी वॉज कैलाश मानसरोवर, ऑब्वियसली फ्रॉम चाइना एंड तिब्बत एंड नेपाल. After that, I went to Singapore in 2014. Then Japan. It is one of my most memorable journeys. So Japan is so fascinating that I wrote a book on Japan.
All right.
एक भारतीय की जापान यात्रा. Unfortunately, it was awarded by the Ministry of Tourism also.
Fantastic. And you also write for children. Again, मुझे लग रहा है कि जैसा आप कहना चाहते हैं, message should be clear. अब कोई भी medium हो.
Yes.
But writing भी आप कर रहे हैं, आप videography भी कर रहे हैं, you're traveling also. So आप what is the message that you're trying to send out with these books that you're writing? Of course, आप अपना travel पूरा log कर रहे हैं इन चीज़ों में, but when you write children's books, आप उसमें क्या message?
चिल्ड्रन मतलब कि अभी कुछ दिन पहले ही, अभी मोदी जब उडुपी में थे, तो उन्होंने एक बड़ी अच्छी बात बोली थी कि मतलब जब हम नहीं थे तो भी भारत था, हम नहीं रहेंगे तो भी भारत रहेगा. तो बात इतनी टचिंग है. तो मेरी भी सेम फिलॉसफी है कि मतलब हम कुछ ऐसा करके जाएं, एक ऐसी लेगेसी छोड़ के जाएं, क्योंकि बच्चों के लिए करने का विचार सबसे पहले मेरे दिमाग में आया 2019 में, जब 100 ईयर्स हुए जलियांवाला बाग के. तो आई वॉज सिटिंग विद माई पब्लिशर. तो देन आइडिया केम टू आवर माइंड के इट वॉज सो इमिनेंट पार्ट ऑफ हिस्ट्री. इतना बड़ा काम था जलियांवाला बाग, इतना बड़ा इतिहास का पन्ना है, और वो इस तरह से वेस्ट नहीं जाना चाहिए, बच्चों को पता होना चाहिए. देन वी क्रिएटेड सुनो बच्चों जलियांवाला बाग की कहानी. तो वहाँ से ये स्टोरी का सिलसिला शुरू हुआ. दैट बिकेम हिट एंड पीपल स्पेशली चिल्ड्रन लाइक्ड इट. तो बड़ा अच्छा रहा और उसका जो विमोचन किया था वो भगत सिंह के ग्रैंडसन और विजयन थापर के पापा ने किया था, कर्नल थापर ने. तो इट वेंट वेल. तो देन वी स्टार्टेड विद दिस स्टोरी बुक्स. अभी मेरी लेटेस्ट स्टोरी बुक आ रही है नेशनल वॉर मेमोरियल पे, बिकॉज आई फील के जो देश का सबसे बड़ा महातीर्थ होता है ना, वो कोई भी मंदिर या गुरुद्वारा या कोई मस्जिद नहीं होता. वो स्थान है जहाँ पर हमारे शहीद आराम कर रहे हैं, जहाँ पर उनके स्मारक बने हुए हैं. हमें वहाँ पर जाना चाहिए, बच्चों को वहाँ पर जाना चाहिए. तो दैट्स व्हाई आई हैव क्रिएटेड न्यू स्टोरी बुक नेशनल वॉर मेमोरियल पर. सुनो बच्चों, राष्ट्रीय समर स्मारक की कहानी, उसका जल्दी हम लॉन्च करने जा रहे हैं.
Very congratulations to you on that as well, sir. Of course, we're looking forward. But in your entire journey, sir, आपके लिए सबसे memorable, you mentioned Japan.
Yeah.
What are some of the
international.
other moments that you thought were really memorable, something that really stuck with you?
You know, I was on my journey to Palampur in Himachal Pradesh. I went to home of Captain Saurabh Kalia. तो उन्होंने घर पर ही एक मेमोरेबल वो बना रखा, अपने घर पर मेमोरियल बना रखा. तो व्हेन आई वेंट आई मेट हर मदर विजया आंटी. तो शी केम विद द चेक बुक एंड शोन टू मी कि वो SBI की एक चेक बुक थी. तो बोली, बेटा ऋषि, ये सौरभ ने मुझे दिया था कि अब आप पैसों की चिंता मत करो, मेरी फ़ौज में नौकरी लग गई है, तो ये चेक बुक आप रखो, जितने पैसे चाहिए आप निकाल लेना. बट दैट डे नेवर केम. यू नो, इट वॉज वेरी इमोशनल मोमेंट. तो टीयर्स वर इन माई आइज. तो सौरभ की कहानी तो सब लोग जानती हैं कि ही वॉज द फर्स्ट शहीद ऑफ द कारगिल वॉर. और जिस तरह से उनकी बॉडी को भेजा था, तो इट सेंट बहुत गुस्सा, बहुत एंगर था पूरे देश के अंदर. तो दैट दैट मोमेंट स्टिल इज इन माई हार्ट एंड इट्स वेरी इमोशनल मोमेंट.
Absolutely, I can imagine. And अब आप इंडिया कवर कर चुके हैं, इंटरनेशनली आप कॉन्टिनेंट्स कवर कर चुके हैं. नेक्स्ट आपकी लिस्ट में क्या है?
नेक्स्ट लिस्ट है लोगों को इंस्पायर करना, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि लोग अपनी आपाधापी में, रोज़ की दिनचर्या में इतने उलझे हुए हैं कि वो निकल ही नहीं पाते. मतलब बहुत से लोग ऐसे मुझे मिलते हैं जो मुझसे यही सवाल पूछते, हाउ डू यू मैनेज विद योर जॉब एंड दिस एंड दैट ऑल. तो मैं उनको यही बोलता हूँ कि चीज़ों को मैनेज करने के लिए सिर्फ थोड़ा सा डिसिप्लिन चाहिए लाइफ में, और एक प्लान आप एडवांस में करके रखिए. अभी कल ही मुझे मेरा एक साथी मिला, ही इज़ ऑल्सो ऑन अ वेरी सीनियर पोजीशन वर्किंग विद मी इन दिल्ली मेट्रो. तो वो बोला कि आई एम गोइंग टू 40 नेक्स्ट मंथ, और अभी तक लाइफ इतनी उलझी हुई है कि मतलब पता ही नहीं चलता रोज़ कैसे क्या करना, और आप तो पता नहीं कर रहे हो. मैं कहा इसमें दिस इज़ नॉट इम्पॉसिबल, यू जस्ट प्लान इट आउट. और मैं सबको बोलता हूँ कि जिनके पास अगर क्योंकि घूमने के लिए आई बिलीव कि आपको पैसा ही नहीं चाहिए, आपको बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम भी नहीं चाहिए, सिर्फ एक मन से मंशा चाहिए. आप एक बार, मैं लोगों को चैलेंज देता हूँ कि आप बताओ आप कहाँ जाना है आपने, मैं आपको 2 दिन में करा के लाता हूँ. और कई लोगों को मैं करा के लाया हूँ. मतलब यू पिक अ स्पॉट इन इंडिया,
2 दिन में
मैं करा के लाता हूँ. क्योंकि देखिए, वी आर इन दिल्ली, तो वी आर फॉर्चुनेट दैट दिल्लीइट्स आर क्वाइट फॉर्चुनेट. आप सिर्फ सोचो कि यार मेरा बर्फ देखने का दिल है, आप रात को वॉल्वो पकड़ो, मनाली पहुँच गए, रोहतांग पास जाइए, 12 महीने बर्फ मिलती है आपको. आपने रात को सोचा यार मुझे ना समुद्र देखना, बड़े दिनों में मैं बीच पे नहीं गया, तो आप राजधानी पकड़िए शाम को और आप दमन पहुंचते हैं, वहाँ सामने समुद्र है. मतलब ऑल दीज डेस्टिनेशंस आर ओनली 12 आवर्स अवे फ्रॉम दिल्ली. आपको रेगिस्तान देखना, आप जैसलमेर पहुंच जाते हैं ओवरनाइट ट्रेन लेकर के. तो कहाँ कमी है? कमी सिर्फ हमारे मंशा में है कि यार अच्छा देखेंगे, करेंगे, अभी तो बड़ा बिजी हूँ, अभी टाइम नहीं है, अभी ये नहीं है. तो जस्ट प्लान इट एंड गो आउट.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Absolutely. आपसे बात करके लग रहा है हम सब अपने वीकेंड्स वेस्ट कर रहे हैं एक्चुअली. अगर आपको टिप्स देने हो यंगर जनरेशन की, आप बात कर रहे हैं कि किसी को कैसे प्लानिंग करनी है, हाउ कैन दे मैनेज दिस विद देयर वर्क एंड ऑल द डिमांड्स ऑफ लाइफ, व्हाट वुड यू से टू देम? यू हैव टोल्ड अस जस्ट डू इट, बट एक्चुअली इफ दे हैड टू प्लान, व्हाट शुड दे बी डूइंग?
मैं भी ऐसे ही प्लान करता हूँ, बिकॉज आई कम्स फ्रॉम अ मिडिल क्लास फैमिली, नॉट अ वेरी रिच बैकग्राउंड. तो हम क्या करते हैं कि हम पूरा कैलेंडर पहले देख लेते हैं. जैसे अभी हम दिसंबर आज स्टार्ट हो गया, तो मैंने पिछले 5 महीने, अगले 5 महीने का कैलेंडर ऑलरेडी देख लिया. और अपने वो जो वीकेंड्स हैं और जो छुट्टी है बीच में, 1 लेकर के 3 की 4, 4 की 5 कैसे की जा सकती है, वो सारी प्लानिंग कर लेते हैं हम एडवांस में. और एयर टिकट्स चूँकि I said कि I comes from a middle class family, तो हम एयर टिकट्स पहले बुक कर लेते हैं
जी.
अगर आपको बाय एयर जाना. अगर ट्रेन से जाना तो फिर तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है. I comes from a रेलवे बैकग्राउंड, तो कभी भी मतलब कि आई एम सो फॉर्चुनेट कि मेरे इतने सारे दोस्त हैं रेलवेज के अंदर के मतलब कभी टिकट के लिए दिक्कत होती नहीं है. बट इफ़ यू डू प्लानिंग इन एडवांस ना, बिट एडवांस, यू कैन डू एनीथिंग.
जी.
सिर्फ अपना कैलेंडर पकड़ के रखिए,
अपने ऑफ्स देख लीजिए, अपने वीकेंड्स देख लीजिए एंड प्लान कर. ऑल राइट. एंड व्हाट हैज बीन वन ऑफ योर बिगेस्ट लर्निंग फ्रॉम योर ट्रैवल्स, सर?
ट्रैवल ऑलवेज गिव लर्निंग. यू नो, आई ऑलवेज टेल यंगर जनरेशन कि आप लाख सवा लाख रुपए का फ़ोन खरीदने से अच्छा है कि आप 4-5 दिन के ट्रैकिंग पे निकल जाए. एंड व्हेन यू विल कम बैक, आई एम श्योर कि यू विल बी अ डिफरेंट पर्सन. तो इन सच मैनर, क्योंकि किसी ने एक बार कहा था कि जॉब फिल्स योर पॉकेट बट एडवेंचर फिल्स योर लाइफ, योर सोल. सो आई फील ट्रैवल इज़ अ फूड फॉर माई सोल. तो आई कांट लिव विदाउट दैट. तो बड़ा अच्छा लगता है कि लोग आते हैं पूछते हैं कि यार यहाँ जाना है, कैसे जाए, कैसे करें. तो इट रियली, आई लव दिस.
And I can see that excitement. I can feel it. I'm feeling really inspired also. How do you think travels have changed you? How do you think you are different now as opposed to when you started maybe?
एक्चुअली किसी ऋषि ने कहा था कि यात्राएं आपको ज़्यादा मैच्योर बनाती है और आपको समझदार बनाती है और आपको ज्ञान देती है. और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि हमारे में पेशेंस डेवलप करती है. अभी क्या कि हम सब हैबिचुअल हैं. मुझे घर में एसी चाहिए, बहुत कंफर्टेबल बेड चाहिए, मुझे खाना बढ़िया मॉम बना के दे देंगी या कोई भी दे देगा. बट व्हेन वी गो आउट फॉर ट्रैवल ना, तो आपको रेलवे की सीट पर कई बार नींद नहीं आती, आपको कंबल साफ नहीं मिलता, आपको कई बार खाना आपकी पसंद का नहीं मिलता. तो इन दैट केस वी लर्न पेशेंस. तो इन दैट केस यू मस्ट बी अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू से, कि आप में पेशेंस डेवलप होती है. आज की युग में सबसे ज़्यादा कमी जिस चीज़ की है वो पेशेंस की है. तो पेशेंस डेवलप होती है कि अरे नहीं कोई बात नहीं, जैसे है ठीक है. ट्रैवलिंग में मैं लोगों को ये बोलता हूँ, डोंट एक्सपेक्ट लग्जरी ऑन योर ट्रैवल, तभी मज़ा आएगा आपको. नीचे सोने को मिलता है, डालो चादर, सो जाओ, क्या दिक्कत है.
जी बिल्कुल. So of course you learn patience, you learn adaptability, and of course you
Knowledge.
learn by traveling to newer places and their culture and their heritage. No, sir, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us in the studio this morning on The Breakfast Club. I'm sure a lot of our viewers have gotten a lot of Monday motivation. Maybe they're all planning their weekend travels already. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting.
All right, and that being said, let's shift our focus. Netflix's chilling new supernatural thriller Baramulla dives deep into the valley's buried traumas, child kidnappings, family secrets, and the lingering scars of 2016 militancy that still demands justice. Listen in as the film's director and star cast open up in a candid conversation about the story, the setting, and the shadows that inspired this. Listen to this.
Tell me, what's with this Kashmir universe, Monal? Article 370, ठीक है, you got awards, फिर अच्छा कश्मीर में अवार्ड मिल रहा है तो एक और थोड़ी मिलता है, ऐसा तो नहीं है.
So interestingly, we made Baramulla before Article 370.
Oh, okay.
So, but because of how complex the film is, how complex the narrative is, how complex the VFX is, it took a little more time for us to come out with Baramulla. I think it's just somehow it's divine coincidence that a bunch of people who have been interested in the subject of Kashmir. I mean, if I were to talk personally, my father is a retired Air Force officer. So my military background, growing up, Kashmir was something that was always around. I think Aditya Jamle sir will explain better why his interest in Kashmir was always there. And our producers are Kashmiri Pandits themselves. So this divine coincidence of so many people coming together, and then us finding Kashmiri Pandit actress, and Kashmiri, our lead actor also being Kashmiri.
Yeah.
So there's some divine play here, and Kashmir has so many stories, and as you can say, Article 370 and Baramulla are completely different genres. So lots to explore, and that draws us.
But the Aditya Dhar universe on Kashmir started with Uri, right? Was it?
I don't know how to call it.
But that other than but how did it start for you?
For me, it was like, as he mentioned, Baramulla was my first film. So every director wants to, as a director, I always wanted to make a mark so that a film does leave some kind of an impact. Can the story or whatever you have tried to craft, can it stay with you for longer time? So the only thing which I felt was I wanted to change or bend the genre in some way, because if you just place it in the horror trope, what has been done before and tested before, very safe, then it will not probably stay with you for a long. So the idea was to do something which is genre bending, and I think Kashmir gave the perfect setup for that. I think Baramulla was always the tagline, or I mean, it was always the title of the film. It was never like you could set the story anywhere else in India. So I think for a director, it's like a vardhan, getting something like that where you can do a film in Kashmir. And being a Goan, I always felt it was a great challenge for me to prove or make a statement that yes, I don't come from the valley, but yet I relate to it, and as a responsibility, I will deliver it in a certain way, to best to my capacity. And the response, which is right now pretty evident, I'm really happy that the circle is closing so well for me.
And she's also part of this entire Kashmir universe. You must have seen her in Kashmir Files. Now it's Baramulla. So are you worried that I'm Kashmiri, so that doesn't mean I'll do only subjects on Kashmir?
Yeah, I hope to do more varied projects in future. But having said that, I think it rarely happens in the life of an actor that the motherland is choosing you to tell its own stories. I mean, मेरा इस फिल्म में होना, it's entirely divine coincidence, जैसा कि कश्मीर फाइल्स में होना है. But yes, the characters are different, stories different, treatment is different, and the team is different. Still, I am a part of two very important stories about Kashmir. That's a huge blessing that I think I have. And so talking about Kashmir, I think Kashmir actually, अगर हम सिनेमा के लेंस से बात करें तो it's always been a victim of its own beauty.
Yeah.
तो ब्यूटी के अलावा कुछ नहीं दिखाया जाता था कश्मीर में. दिस इज़ फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम दैट कश्मीर हैज़ बीन शोन टू कि it is suffering. Of course there are problems, but then what is the root cause of the problem, and the treatment is so different. So people were saying पहले कि it's horror, जबकि सच कहें तो it's only the truth is so horrific that it's termed horror. And the genocide, which is at the root of it, I think what can be more horrible than a genocide?
Yeah.
So that's why I think this treatment works so well, and it's been received so well. I'm very lucky to be part of this team.
The moment first up you said Baramulla, I watched the film, so I'm just saying, and for someone who's tracked Kashmir so closely as a journalist, there were 3-4 concepts which somewhere allowed me to figure out the plot. First is you said Baramulla, and then you showed a house, and the question asked is somebody had already lived there. That's what it showed when you opened. So my first guess was, all right, so we know what happened in Baramulla, so there could be a reference to that. Second, there is the whole presence of a supernatural element. So somewhere I said, okay, ghosts of the past, is that a possibility? Third came this whole concept of Nanne Mujahid. So this is something which was an intelligence notes that we had accessed, and they said, this is what is the most dangerous thing for Jammu and Kashmir, that they are catching them very, very young and indoctrinating them at their most impressionable, vulnerable age. And you touched upon that subject. So for me as a journalist, I was able to glean that. But I want to ask you as writers and makers, how did you stumble upon this? How did you get this thought? So between Monal and Aditya, you can take it.
I think it always came down from the fact, like you just clearly mentioned, while we always deal with the problem of Kashmir, or conflict in Kashmir, the attention is always given to the present problem. But what we don't realize is what is happening with the next generation right at the time when you're discussing that problem. That was the thought. And when we tried to find out more, research it more, visited Kashmir, that is being tapped on by the people who don't want the peace to be there. So the idea was always to tap on it because it's completely ignored. And if even the term that we have used, which is a right term, which is they used to be called diaper militants, it's something that is so horrific and so it is planned so well, in a way, where you try and affect their minds at the age where they are so vulnerable, and then afterwards, even if you find it out, it's so difficult to de-radicalize them. So the whole point was to tap in this in a way where we can talk about the future, the next generation, and at the same time what supernatural element was giving us the way was the past, which is so horrific. They are spirits, you can call them shadows, you can call them different entities.
All right then, switching gears to the auto world, Overdrive got an exclusive look at the 2026 Honda Prelude showcased at the Japan Mobility Show 2025. Take a look at Overdrive's verdict on this one.
What you see behind me is the Honda Prelude. We all like our Honda Cities, we've grown up loving them. But if you're an enthusiast and you really want a fast, fun car under 1 crore, then this might just be a great choice for you coming from Honda. Now, what is it? It's of course a sporty coupe, but there's a catch here. There's actually a hybrid. Now, the unique bit about the Prelude is that it's front wheel driven and the engine is a 2-liter hybrid powertrain, the kind you see in very regular SUVs, but of course it's been tuned out to create a lot more power. So in this setup, in this quite small car, it's making 200 PS-ish and a combined torque of over 300 Newton meters. So it's still going to be quite a fairly potent machine. Now what I really like about it, that even though it's front wheel driven, look at how low the nose is. It looks like a mid-engine sports car. That's what I thought at first. I think it looks really smart, especially the way the band sort of runs around the face. And when you come closer to the side, you have these quite chunky 19-inch wheels. But the thing is, a lot of the suspension components, like the brakes, the steering system, and like I said, a lot of the suspension has actually been taken from the Civic Type R. So this is going to be quite a good car to handle. And I also must say that the rear looks really smart. Of course, you have the quite common trend of there being a full width light bar kind of situation. I like the new Honda logo. It's so minimal and nice. I mean, I do miss the fact that you don't get that edge any longer, but it's there. And even the gloss black is there. I mean, you can have your own views about it, but it's there, but it's neatly done. Now, Honda isn't making too many claims. As you can see, this doesn't really have any exhaust tips or such, but it does have this blue light kind of F1 style element here to show you that you are driving something with a hybrid powertrain. And if you were wondering what kind of practicality you might expect, it's got a pretty big boot and it's actually a 4-seater. Now we'll go inside and show you what the cabin is actually like. Sorry for this beeping sound. Yeah, it's gone, but immediately in the Prelude, you know that it's a sporty car and that you're in a Honda because it's got that low committed seating position where, you know, the wheel really falls to your hand perfectly. No, there's no powered seats here, but as you can see, I can get a very easy, nice position. Steering wheel just the right size. I like the blue detailing. Everything is hard. Tactile buttons. And yeah, as we've said before, the screen is maybe a bit too small. But you will know that you are in a Honda. There is a wireless charger here. That again, very typically Honda gear selector. And those, if you can hear it, some extremely tactile climate switches. I also like some of the materials and finishes. Now Honda is not shying away from this being a hybrid, as you can see. You've got this scuffed kind of material, the blue stitching, this is all soft materials. Everything is just like how you expect, tough, well built in a Honda. And there is, even though this is a coupe, there's a decent amount of space. Now the one unique thing here is the S Plus shift. Now one of the things with a hybrid is that you maybe think that it won't have the kind of engagement and driving feel of a regular IC powertrain, and this is there for that, where it will sort of mimic gear shifts and engine noises to give you the experiences of, say, a regular hot performance car. Now this is technically a 4-seater, so I will quickly show you what the back seat is like. I'm not going to try and get in. And yeah, I mean, I would not really try to fit in here. Maybe it's for kids or your shopping bags. So this was the Honda Prelude. So what do you think? Do you think Honda should bring it to India? Let us know in the comments. And what do you think it should be priced at? We think around rupees 50 to 60 lakhs for this would be a great buy, and would get people quite interested. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments.
All right, and Virat Kohli turned back the clock with a fearless masterclass in Ranchi, smashing his 52nd ODI ton and dismantling the South African attack. A dominating innings that shifted gears effortlessly and reminded everyone why he remains India's most reliable match winner. Take a look at this special report.
Virat Kohli reaffirmed his immense value to India's ODI setup with a masterful century that shaped the team's 17-run win over South Africa in the series opener on Sunday. On a flat Ranchi surface, Kohli controlled the innings from the moment he walked in, crafting a superb 135 of 120 balls that blended classical timing with smart acceleration to take India to 349 for 8. His 52nd ODI 100 gained even more significance once South Africa began their chase. The visitors crumbled early under sustained pressure from India's attack, led by the impactful bowling from Harshit Rana and Kuldeep Yadav. Despite a spirited 72 from Matthew Gretzky and a counter-attacking 70 from Marco Jansen, South Africa were eventually bowled out for 332, giving India a 1-0 lead in the three-match series. Kuldeep's double strike in the 34th over, removing Gretzky and Jansen within 3 balls, proved the decisive moment after their 97-run partnership revived hopes for the visitors. Earlier, Kohli's commanding innings, decorated with 7 sixes and 11 fours, found perfect support from Rohit Sharma, who struck a fluent 57 of 51 balls. The duo added 136 for the second wicket, producing a much-anticipated Roko show that delighted the Ranchi crowd. Rohit's reprieve on 1, a sitter dropped by Tony D'Souza, allowed him to grow into his innings, peppering the boundary with flicks and pulls, particularly against Marco Jansen and Corbin Bosch. His dismissal, trapped by Jansen, briefly slowed the scoring, but Kohli ensured India stayed on track. Kohli walked in early after Yashasvi Jaiswal fell for 18 and from the outset appeared in vintage touch. A towering 6 over mid-off and a silken cover drive of Nandre Berger signalled his intent. Even as wickets fell at the other end, Kohli held the innings together, rotating strike with ease and punishing loose deliveries. After Rohit's dismissal, Kohli shifted gears. India lost Ruturaj Gaikwad and Washington Sundar in quick succession, but Kohli remained unfazed, rotating strike, absorbing pressure and punishing anything loose. His calculated assault on Pranal Subran, 21 runs in an over, highlighted his unmatched ability to accelerate even with a soft ball in hand. As India looked ahead with few ODIs on the calendar, Kohli reminded everyone that his touch is intact, his hunger undimmed, and his place in the format unquestioned. By the end of the night, his 100 did not just shape a victory, it reaffirmed that his hunger, class, and big game temperament remain untouched.
All right, and we will be right back after a short break with markets and sectors. Stay tuned for that.
This is
सैल्यूट है जी। आप देश की रक्षा में जान लगा देते हैं और आप घर घर में तार लगाते हैं जी। ई बीम टेक्नोलॉजी से बनी, न जले न पिघले, सबकी रक्षा करे।
हम सरहद पर लोगों की रक्षा करते हैं और आप देश के अंदर। सैल्यूट तो बनता है जी।
अपार अणुशक्ति फायर प्रोटेक्ट वायर, अपार देश का तार।
Stay ahead with News 18. News from your city in your language. Real-time updates, in-depth analysis, and breaking news. Anytime, anywhere. Only on the News 18 app. Scan and download the News 18 app now.
Now we're getting a breaking news where South African President Cyril Ramaphosa reflects US absence from G20 summit. He says it is regrettable that the United States of America, which is a founding member of the G20 and which takes over the presidency of the G20 from South Africa in 2026, chose not to participate in the Leaders Summit and the final meetings leading up to it. Let's listen in.
Earlier this week, we formally handed over the G20 presidency .
All right, welcome back. Next up, we bring you a special segment on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. GIFT Nifty trends indicate a strong opening for Indian equity indices today. Strong GDP data is helping. Asian markets are showing mixed signs as Japanese indices are trading lower, while the Chinese market is up in early trades. US markets closed higher after comments by Fed officials raised hopes of a potential rate cut. Gold and oil futures are trading higher in derivatives markets. Dairy sector is undergoing a shift in India. Milk procurement costs in India are trending up, and this is due to milk supply getting affected by erratic rain and farmers diverting attention to agriculture. However, most players in the sector are diversifying into value-added products like curd, lassi and ice cream to improve the margins. You can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about the dairy sector and other actionable market insights. It's the premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights you will ever need, brought to you by Money Control. All right, and with that, we're going to call it a wrap on this edition of The Breakfast Club. News and updates will continue on the other side on CNN News 18. Do stay tuned.
This is
Getting a breaking news where South African President Cyril Ramaphosa reflects US absence from G20 summit. He says it is regrettable that the United States of America, which is a founding member of the G20 and which takes over the presidency of the G20 from South Africa in 2026, chose not to participate in the Leaders Summit and the final meetings leading up to it. Let's listen in.
Earlier this week, we formally handed over the G20 presidency for 2026 to the United States, observing the appropriate diplomatic protocols. A few days ago, President Donald Trump made a statement to the effect that South Africa would not be invited to participate in the G20 in the United States. He repeated untrue statements about genocide against Afrikaners and the confiscation of land from white people in our country. We must make it clear that South Africa is one of the founding members of the G20, and South Africa is therefore a member of
Good morning. The team of CNN News 18 is back once again and going to give you every details right over here first on our network. And of course, it's the winter session of Parliament. And it definitely has all the potential of being extremely chilly. Guess why?
Yes, it has already made it clear at the All Party that they are going to try and push the government for a discussion. We saw the last session also get washed out on SIR. Of course, the BJP would demand answers from Rahul and Sonia Gandhi after that FIR by the Delhi police. But let's get you the headlines first.
That's right. The winter session of Parliament begins. There are 10 key bills which are going to be brought in by the centre. The opposition, however, wants the focus to remain only on SIR.
The entire schedule of SIR by 1 week amidst allegation by opposition parties of tight timeline. TMC takes credit for the move.
Well, the Congress firms up its strategy as far as the National Herald case is concerned. This is after a fresh FIR has been filed against Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. The party and the Gandhis tell the rest of the party leaders not to engage on this issue of the National Herald.
Change. Centre announces that all Raj Bhavans will now be called Lok Bhavans. Stalin slams renaming calls